Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited to share my conversation with Eva Jannotta. She is founder of Simply Put Strategies. She works with female entrepreneurs and business leaders to create data-driven thought leadership and marketing strategy so they can increase their power and influence and make a social impact while achieving gender parity. Welcome to the show today, Eva.
Hi, Felina. Thank you.
Absolutely. Excited to share your story, to share your journey, your career path, if you will. So take us back. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? And where'd you go from there?
Yes. So I grew up outside Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And I was actually homeschooled from 1st through 8th grade. And in looking back on that, I realized I learned so much discipline and how to be self-driven and self-motivated during that time. And then I went to public high school, which was a culture shock, which is a story for another time.
Yeah,
and then
I can imagine.
As you can imagine. And then I went to the University of Maryland in Baltimore County, where I studied gender and women's studies and English literature.
That's great. Talk about, I'm just curious. This is about a pure curiosity because, as you know, the world I live in is very female focused as well. And I'm fascinated by this degree in gender studies. I know we've been contacted by a few universities who have been doing research studies or things of that nature, and they've wanted to study Hera Hub, which is awesome. What would you say the major focus of a gender studies degree is?
What drew me to it at first is when I first took a gender studies class, it really made something click in my mind. It made me realize, that's why I feel like there's something wrong with me sometimes just for being female. You get these messages growing up. I remember when I was a kid, we had a neighbor across the street, and one time we were playing football or something outside, and I threw, and he said to me, "You throw like a girl." And it was just a statement of fact. There's no other way for me to possibly throw, but I could tell from his tone that he was being insulting. And it wasn't until I took a gender and women's studies course that I realized, there's a system and millennia of history behind why I sometimes have this feeling that I'm wrong just because of my sex and gender. And so what was incredible for me about going through that program and getting that degree is it helped me understand how the world works, how people relate to each other, how the snap judgments we make, the things that we see or hear, why those have certain meaning and certain currency in different situations. So it felt like it's been such a powerful way to just understand this is why the world works this way, and this is how we can change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. I want to go back and get a gender women's studies degree now. I love it.
Yeah, it was a great field. And the thing is, I tell people my major and they'd be like, what? What kind of a job are you going to get with that degree? And the truth is that it is so widely applicable to any field, any industry, any pursuit, because again, it's about humans and about culture and about how society and power and politics and the economy, how they all function. And so it's been a wonderful kind of foundation for me, not only as a business owner, but just as a person who has relationships with the world and reads the news. It really helps me see things through a particular lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially what's going on in the world right now. So I will stop there and we will move on. So something struck me. This looks like a job that you had while still in college. You were transitioning children's picture books into iPhone applications. Talk about that because it's really, really fascinating. And I guess my follow up question to that is that maybe a path that led you into your focus in marketing?
Yes, so that was my first foray into marketing. In fact, that was when I wrote my first blog post and really started kind of like working on the internet, so to speak. And it was a really interesting job because it was creative. It also taught me some coding skills. I learned what XML and HTML were, and it just introduced me to a lot of new fields that I was unfamiliar with at that time. And so, yeah, the idea was, we have this technology at our fingertips, and parents might not always want to have their kid be playing a kind of a loud, flashy game, but maybe they do want their child to be occupied sometimes, waiting in line at the grocery store or what have you. And so why not allow these children to experience picture books and hear a story through the medium of a device?
Hmm, very cool. That's awesome. And I mean, so needed, right? I mean, this as well. I still get excited when I see a kid holding a book, to be honest. But to
Yes.
your point, that may not always be convenient, and giving children an alternative, to be reading at a young age on a device, an iPad, an iPhone, etc.
Yes.
Very, very, very cool. So, Eva, from there, take us on your career path up to the point that you launched your business.
Sure. So in my final year of university, a lot of my peers were applying to graduate school or thinking about, or rather stressing about applying for jobs, not necessarily applying for them. And this was in 2012. And during our time in university, that was when the economy basically tanked. And there was just a lot of doom and gloom around finding a good job after school. So I decided, well, I'm just going to start a business instead. Like, I won't even try to find a job. I'll just start a business. And then, ironically, I ended up getting a full-time job at a really incredible company called Mom's Organic Market. I actually knew the CEO because I used to babysit his kids, and he had an opening in his central office and suggested that I apply. So I did, and I worked as his executive assistant for some time, and then I transitioned into the communications department at that company.
That is awesome. I want to pause on something you said, Eva, because so this is back in 2012, and yes, to your point, we were still coming out of the Great Recession, and I can
Yes.
certainly, I graduated college sort of the recession before you, if you will, and so I felt that as well when I graduated all the way back in 1995. Same kind of thing. We were just kind of climbing out of a bit of a downturn, but it's so interesting because, again, I'm the recession before you. Even though I grew up in an entrepreneurial environment, both my parents are entrepreneurs, it honestly didn't cross my mind to start a business right out of school. And I love that you said that. And I love that you were thinking that. And I think it does illustrate how how far we've come in the world of business startup and entrepreneurship, in that it's so much easier to do, or even was to do back in 2012. And there's so much more talk around entrepreneurship that, like you, and I see it today too at Hera Hub, we have members who literally are right out of college. They started their business, they're ready to go. This idea of having to go get the corporate experience and then go back and start your business, it's totally different now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Felina. And as I think back, I realized, when I finished university in 2012 and was planning to start a business, that was like at the very beginning of the kind of the side hustle culture. So I didn't have that informing my plan. I don't think I could have articulated this at the time, but what I will say now is, from homeschooling all the way through, I learned so much independence and autonomy. And then, for about 10, maybe even 15 years, the main way I made money was by babysitting, which is sort of like a side hustle. I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're freelancing basically.
Yeah.
And so I had this sense of like that my own like personal sovereignty was really important to me, and being able to be in charge of what I did and have control over my environment. I just never occurred to me that it would not work. I'm sure I was afraid of like, failing or not making very much money or disappointing people, but it just seemed obvious to me that it could be done. And I don't know why exactly that was. I just felt like, you know what, I'm 20 something, I'm on my dad's insurance plan. Why not now? I have no mortgage. I
Yeah,
have no children. I don't even have a pet fish. It's like the perfect time.
exactly. No, that's true. I mean, you have nothing to lose, so to speak. And so, and coupled with the fact that, yes, started, that was kind of coming into the culture at the time. And then also just I don't want to say it's easy to start a business, because it's definitely not easy, but easy from a mechanics perspective. It's like you go get a
Yeah,
business license, you throw, a website up online, you maybe get some business cards printed, maybe not anymore, even not even
right.
bothering, put up your social channels, do some networking, and you're in business.
Yes. Yeah, and I think too, so I ended up getting a full-time job right out of school, much to my surprise. I wasn't trying very hard to do that. And I really loved that job, but a couple years in, there were some internal shifts and the job just kind of fell apart. And so I was a bit older then and had some working experience, and I thought, well, I don't want to stay in this job anymore, nor do I really want to apply for another job. Like, I don't really feel drawn towards a different job or company to work for. So let me go back to my original idea and I'll start my business now. So that was in 2015 that I did that. And I did start my business. And like you said, Selena, I got a business license, like went through the website, the Maryland State website, to register my LLC. And at first, I thought I wanted to be a professional organizer because I love making things orderly and helping people simplify and pare things down and come up with good systems for their homes. And I tried that for a little while and it just didn't feel like the right fit. And at the same time, I had this communications experience and I knew some people who needed help. I think they kind of saw me, a millennial, and were like, this gal knows what to do. So I started building a client base in marketing and communications, which wasn't my intent, but it was a really good fit, and it allowed me to draw on my background in writing and my love for writing and just my innate kind of, I'm a very empathetic, sensitive person, and I'm really good at writing with empathy and emotion and really connecting with people that way. So that is how my business became what it is today.
Awesome. I love it. So how'd you end up in Phoenix?
Oh, that's a great question. So after I left my full-time job, I stayed in Maryland for a couple of years, and I started to feel very restless. I'd always lived there. I was really hungry for an adventure, and it dawned on me kind of oddly slowly that because I wasn't full-time employed in Maryland anymore, that meant I didn't actually have to live there. So I was like, oh my gosh, the world is my oyster now. I could live anywhere. And my partner and I talked it over, and we decided we had a couple of criteria. We wanted to be warmer. We wanted it to look different. We wanted it to have a big airport so we could travel. We wanted it to be close to things that we wanted to see. And desiring a warm climate cuts out over half the cities in the US anyway.
True.
So we ended up picking Phoenix sight unseen because it had a lot of characteristics that we wanted to experience.
That is so great. I love it. You didn't even come out to visit. You just said, Phoenix, there it is. We're off. We're going.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a risk and it paid off really beautifully. We absolutely love it here.
Yeah, it is. It's such a cool city in that the hiking and just access to
Yes.
so much. I love Phoenix. That's great. Well, glad you headed out west. So let's talk about your business in a little more detail. Company is Simply Put Strategies. And what do you do?
Yeah. So what I do is I work with North America's most recognized thought leaders in the women helping women economy. And I help them create marketing strategy and thought leadership content and social media strategy to these women who sell to other women. And the bottom line really is that I help women entrepreneurs be heard, seen, and sought after.
I love it. Awesome. And you work in a variety of mediums, obviously social media, email marketing, content marketing. Give us maybe an example, if you will, of a client, maybe like a case study, so to speak.
Yeah, so I'll mention a client who is a keynote speaker. She's in the Women Helping Women economy. So she works with companies on pay equity and career strategies for women for growth and promotion. And she came to me and she said, Eva, I know I need to be doing videos. I know I have plenty to say. I know that they will become a new lead generating tool for my business. I know they'll help me get speaking opportunities, and I just can't get myself to make them. So we started working together. We talked a little bit about, what was holding her back, where some of her anxiety about them came from. And then we set up a structure and a timeline for her to create these videos. And once she creates them, once she records them, she sends them to me, and I polish them and write social media text for each one and do some hashtag research. So I really prime them to be amplified as much as possible. And that was where she was getting stuck, as she thought, I could record the thing, but then how the heck do I give it legs? What do I need to do? What's the first step? What's the second step? And so it made all the difference to have a collaborator, myself, up by her side to tell her, okay, first you record it, then you send it to me, then I'll finish it. Then I will tell you what to say when you post it on social. I'll tell you what to do after that to amplify it as much as possible. And then we're off to the races.
Yeah, video. My gosh, I have this conversation with so many female entrepreneurs at Hera Hub, and sometimes the block is just even filming the darn thing. But more so, beyond that, you're right. It's like, okay, I have this thing. What do I do with it now? And how do I get it out there? And so I do see a lot of people, they'll film video, but then that's the roadblock, beyond that is just the mechanics of, again, I like that word, polishing the video and then getting it up and amplifying it. So I love that you do that. So with your business, Eva, just talk about, any of the other areas that you're excited about, maybe new things that you're working on that you're looking forward to in the upcoming year.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked, because I think I'm heading into a period of incubation, of contraction, where I'm really going to work on some of the bones of my business. I'm considering going through a rebrand and possibly even a rename for my company, something that really speaks to this women helping women economy, which is where I've been for many years, but it's only recently that I was able to articulate that with such crystal clarity. In fact, I've been working with one of my mentors, a woman named Eleanor Beaton, on that messaging. And so really pursuing that messaging, building relationships further in the women helping women economy, and then positioning my company to work with more incredible thought leaders and experts in that world. So it's really an exciting year. 2019, my company expanded a lot. I brought in support. I pushed my comfort zone 6 way to Sunday. And in 2020, there's going to be, I think, some going inward to prepare for the next phase of growth.
Exciting. Good stuff. Any new types of clients that you're looking forward to? I know women helping women economy is the crux, but any new technologies or any new types of clients that you're looking towards?
Yeah, well, I will say, obviously from my example, I work with clients on video strategy, but I also work on podcasts. I do content production for podcasts. One of my clients this year was Glambition Radio with Ali Brown, which has been so exciting to work on. And then my first love is writing. And I find that the women that come to me have either one of two problems. Either they have the content, the podcast or the articles, and they're having a hard time amplifying it and what I call giving it legs and putting it out into the world, or they have so much expertise and so much to say, and they need help translating that into content, whether it's a video or writing or a podcast. And so those are the two areas where I work with my clients, and that's what I plan to do in 2020.
That's great. Love it. Well, Eva, if our listeners want to reach out, they want to get in touch with you, learn more, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yes, probably the simplest way is to go to simplyputstrategies.com. You'll see my social handles in the corner, and definitely the best places to connect with me are Twitter and LinkedIn, which you can get from there.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much for your time today, Eva.
Thanks, Selena. This was really fun.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.